Imagine living your entire life believing you were sick. Not just sick, terminal. Wheelchair-bound, fed through a tube, on countless medications. No childhood, no freedom, no identity, all stolen under the guise of love. This isn't fiction. This is the story of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, a girl imprisoned not by walls, but by her own mother. And in the end, the only way out was murder. To the outside world, Claudine D.D. Blanchard was the epitome of a devoted mother. She cared for her daughter, Gypsy Rose, with tireless affection, pushing her wheelchair, adjusting her oxygen tubes, managing doctor visits and medications with mechanical precision. They were inseparable, a picture of resilience. The community of Springfield, Missouri adored them. Charities paid their bills. The Make-A-Wish Foundation gave them trips to Disney World. Habitat for Humanity built them a house. But behind this carefully crafted image was something far more sinister. Dee was suffering from a severe psychological disorder known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a form of abuse where a caregiver invents or causes illness in someone under their care, typically to gain attention or sympathy. From the moment Gypsy was a toddler, Dee began telling doctors she had leukemia, muscular dystrophy, developmental delays, epilepsy, and more. She shaved Gypsy's head to mimic chemotherapy, confined her to a wheelchair even though she could walk, and forced her to use a feeding tube despite her being able to eat solid food. The list of fake diagnoses was as long as it was horrifying. Gypsy was a puppet, her strings controlled by a woman consumed by lies. Gypsy Rose wasn't allowed to attend school past the 2nd grade. Dee homeschooled her, or so she claimed. In reality, keeping her daughter intellectually stunted to prevent her from questioning the world around her. Every aspect of Gypsy's life was under control. What she ate, who she spoke to, what she wore. Even her birth year was altered. Dee lied to make Gypsy seem years younger than she was, further reinforcing the illusion of a helpless child in need of constant care. Anytime Gypsy began to rebel or show signs of independence, Dee would retaliate. Once, after Gypsy tried to run away with a man she met at a science fiction convention, Dee smashed her computer and physically restrained her. Doctors who questioned Gypsy's conditions were met with new forged paperwork or simply dropped. It's easy to ask, why didn't someone notice? But Dee was a master manipulator. She targeted physicians, charities, and neighbors with practiced precision, using charm and emotional manipulation to cover the inconsistencies. Over time, people simply believed what they were told. But Gypsy wasn't as naive as Dee thought. Over the years, she had started to suspect something was terribly wrong. In the dark of night, Gypsy would sneak onto the internet, using a hidden laptop to research her conditions and connect with the outside world. That's when the cracks began to show. She discovered her actual age, not the 14 or 15 Dee claimed, but 19. She found out she could walk, eat, and live like a normal person. The truth unraveled like a spool of thread. And with it came rage, confusion, and desperation. Then came Nicholas John. They met on a Christian dating website. Nick was socially isolated, diagnosed with autism, and had his own struggles with mental illness. But to Gypsy, he was a lifeline, a confidant, a romantic escape from the nightmare her life had become. Their relationship quickly turned dark. They shared fantasies, sometimes sexual, sometimes violent. Gypsy began to confide in Nick about the abuse. She told him she wanted out, permanently. And together, they devised a plan. On June 14, 2015, Nick took a bus from Wisconsin to Missouri, armed with a knife. Gypsy let him in while her mother was sleeping. She hid in the bathroom while Nick crept into Dee's bedroom. What happened next was brutal and chilling. Nick stabbed Dee 17 times. She screamed. She fought. But the attack was savage and swift. When it was over, she was dead, and the illusion she'd maintained for over 2 decades shattered with her. Gypsy and Nick fled to Wisconsin, mailing the murder weapon to his house and hiding in plain sight. But their freedom was short-lived. Back in Springfield, neighbors were worried. Gypsy's social media account, typically monitored by Dee, posted a disturbing update. That bitch is dead. At first, some thought the account had been hacked. But when Dee's body was discovered, everything changed. The entire nation turned its attention to the case. The innocent, wheelchair-bound girl was found walking, standing upright with no medical issues. The truth spilled out like a flood. Years of abuse, a web of lies, and a desperate act of liberation. Nick John was charged with first-degree murder and received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Prosecutors argued he was the killer, but many believed Gypsy had manipulated him into doing it. Gypsy, meanwhile, pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. While her sentence was lighter due to the extraordinary circumstances, public reaction was deeply divided. Some saw her as a cold-blooded killer. Others, perhaps the majority, saw her as a victim of unspeakable abuse, doing the only thing she believed could set her free. In a 2018 interview from prison, Gypsy said, "I feel like I'm freer in prison than I was with my mom, because now I'm allowed to live my life like a normal woman." The disturbing nature of this case quickly entered pop culture. In 2019, Hulu released The Act, a dramatized series starring Joey King as Gypsy and Patricia Arquette as Dee Dee. The series was both critically acclaimed and deeply haunting. It humanized Gypsy, showing her not as a murderer, but as a prisoner desperate for autonomy. Arquette's portrayal of Dee Dee earned her an Emmy, a chilling reminder of how abusers can appear kind, loving, even saintly, while hiding deep psychological torment. The show forced audiences to confront uncomfortable questions. What would you do if your entire life was a lie? If your own mother became your jailer, would you ever find a way out without breaking the law? Gypsy Rose Blanchard is scheduled for release in December 2025, and the world is already watching, wondering what her next chapter will be. Can a woman shaped by deception, abuse, and murder ever live a normal life? More importantly, how many other victims of Munchausen by proxy are suffering in silence right now? Dee Dee Blanchard fooled doctors, charities, and an entire community. But the one person she couldn't fool forever was her own daughter. And when the truth came out, it cost her everything. If this case shocked you as much as it did us, consider subscribing for more in-depth true crime stories just like this one. Drop a comment below. Was Gypsy a victim or an accomplice? Could this tragedy have been prevented? This is True Crime Hub, where every case hides a deeper story.